on this Friday night, clearing the air with the new travel rules.
It is your responsibility to understand and to follow all of the rules.
Plus, the new deal to get millions of doses to Canada. Critical warnings about the variants.
We are approaching the potential of a third wave.
And the criticism aimed at provinces relaxing restrictions.
I'm tired of filling out death certificates.
Delayed. A surge of COVID-19 postpones Newfoundland and Labrador's election. And we, the North, go south.
By moving to Tampa, we had to change everything.
The Toronto Raptors pandemic playbook.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Robin Gill.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with breaking news in Newfoundland and Labrador, where in-person voting has been cancelled. The province is reverting to mail-in ballots. Let's bring in our Atlantic correspondent Ross Lord, who joins us. Ross, we know the province is now reporting a variant of the virus, and the province reverted to the highest alert level because of the surge in cases. And now they're suspending the election?
That's right. They are suspending in-person voting for all 40 ridings, and they will not reschedule in-person voting. So I talked to the Chief Electoral Officer, Bruce Chalk, a short time ago. It is going to shift exclusively to voting by mail using special ballots. Newfoundlanders and Labradorians will need to apply for those special ballots by Monday, February 15th, and they'll have to have their completed voting kits back into Elections Newfoundland on or before Monday, March 1st.
Ross, other provinces have managed to pull off elections during a pandemic, BC, New Brunswick. Did the leaders just not anticipate the surge in cases?
I think that's part of the equation for sure, because you have to remember that other than a cluster and an outbreak last spring, Newfoundland has largely stifled the virus, and they've had, on a lot of days, they've had little or no COVID-19 cases. The new premier calls the election to try to get a majority for his Liberal government, and then all of a sudden, within the past week, this outbreak explodes. And according to the Chief Medical Officer of Health in Newfoundland and Labrador, because it is the variant first identified in the UK, spread extremely rapidly. You know, these case counts, 50 one day, 100 yesterday, dozens every day. They are phenomenal, and it's really shaken people there. And, because of the state and the level and the escalation of things right now, they just said, no, we can't do this. We're going to switch everything to mail-in ballot, because the province is essentially going back into lockdown like they were last spring when the pandemic started.
Before this latest development, there was so much confusion surrounding the different parts of the province being able to vote in person, others not being able to. Quickly take us through that.
Yeah, so Plan B was that all of the ridings in the St. John's area and surrounding communities on the Avalon Peninsula, that's 18 ridings, they would not vote tomorrow, which was the scheduled election day, and they would vote at some undetermined later date. But the other 22 ridings and the rest of the province would vote tomorrow. We had scattered reports of some cases elsewhere today, and combined with the discovery that this variant was the one that was first identified in the UK, they said, no, we're just not going to risk it anymore.
All right, Global National's Ross Lord on the phone with us tonight. Thanks, Ross. The province recorded 50 new cases today. That bumps its active COVID-19 case number up to 260, the highest it has been in Newfoundland and Labrador since the pandemic began. Now to more measures to prevent a third wave of COVID-19. The federal government is promising an acceleration of vaccine deliveries in the coming weeks. Ottawa says it's now expecting 4 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine by the end of March and more than 10 million doses between April and June. The government has ordered an additional 4 million doses of the Moderna vaccine, and those are expected this summer. When it comes to non-essential travel, as of February 15th, anyone arriving into Canada by land will have to provide proof of a negative PCR test, just like arrivals by air. And starting February 22nd, travelers will be required to quarantine at a hotel for 3 days at their own expense. But there's still confusion surrounding the process. Abigail Bimman reports.
We're not trying to punish people. We're trying to keep people safe. We now know when you'll have to pay about $2,000 for a 3-day stay in a hotel upon returning to Canada by air, waiting for COVID-19 test results. But there's so much we don't know.
Hotel booking information will be available online as of February 18th.
The requirements come into place just 4 days later. You have to book specified hotels yourself in one of the 4 cities where international flights are allowed to land. Once you have a negative test, you can continue home for the rest of your 14-day quarantine. People arriving by land won't be forced into a hotel.
At land borders, we have 117 different points of entry, and many of those points of entry are located in remote, rural areas that are not readily accessible to access to hotels.
As of Monday, anyone entering Canada by land must also produce a negative PCR test, just like air travelers. And also new for all international travelers as of the 22nd, 2 additional tests, one upon arrival, another later on in quarantine.
Because of the variants, we're going to be testing people near the end of the quarantine period to make sure that it is safe for them to leave quarantine.
If you are traveling, it is your responsibility to understand and to follow all of the rules.
Not so easy to do when the government itself isn't clear about them.
In terms of the day 10 PCR test, they will need to contact their local public health authority and arrange for testing on day 10.
While the infographic from the minister's own department shows you will be given a test for use on day 10, and officials say the test service provider will pick it up from you, although they admit details are still being worked out.
We have long held the view that we needed a testing strategy. We did not think that the hotel quarantine requirement was necessary.
Conservatives wrote the health minister asking for a number of exemptions for the hotel quarantine rules, including for those traveling on compassionate grounds, people who need non-elective medical procedures, and for family reunification. But that's something else we don't know yet either. Officials say the exemptions will be made clear soon and only promise essential workers will be on that list. Abigail Bimman, Global News, Ottawa.
Ottawa is investing $53 million to ramp up efforts to detect the new variants. Across Canada, more than 450 confirmed cases of these more infectious versions of the virus have been reported in 8 provinces. The one first discovered in the UK accounts for the majority of infections. There are 28 confirmed cases of the variant found in South Africa and a single case of the one discovered in Brazil. And tonight, BC is reporting a young person has contracted a brand new variant after traveling to Nigeria. Canada's chief public health officer warns those new variants threaten to derail the work being done to cut the number of cases and hospitalizations. At least 3 provinces are reporting evidence of community spread involving these more transmissible variants. Today, Manitoba loosened some restrictions. Gyms and restaurants can now open to 25% capacity. And as Heather Yourex-West reports, some in the medical community fear a 3rd wave is coming unless we change course now.
A chance to visit a restaurant or send kids back to school has become a welcome bit of respite for the pandemic weary. Canada appears to be coming through the 2nd wave, and the appetite for normalcy is strong.
The combination of that optimism from a successful lockdown leading to governments wanting to reopen, and the background of these variants of concern emerging, plus delays in the vaccine arrival, is setting up really this perfect storm for a massive 3rd wave.
Ontario modeling shows that without stronger restrictions, new variant cases will grow exponentially in the coming weeks to well over 1,000 daily cases by the spring.
If the B117 variant behaves as it did in the United Kingdom, cases will start to grow here again in late February or early March. That is, unless we can limit the spread through public health measures.
And yet, Ontario is easing restrictions. Alberta, too, even as the number of variant cases in that province increases by the day. On January 8th, Alberta had detected 5 variant cases. Just 6 weeks later, on February 11th, there were 156, 96 who did not travel.
We are screening all of our positive cases for variant strains so that we're able to put more intensive intervention around those cases and really treat our variant cases with a containment approach.
But some in the medical community believe the opportunity to contain these new variants has passed. Modeling out of the University of Calgary suggests that the variant first discovered in the UK could be the dominant strain in Alberta by March.
Given the doubling time of the cases of the new variant that we've seen in Alberta over recent weeks, I do believe that we are approaching the potential of a third wave if we don't take further action now.
A difficult decision left once again in the hands of provincial leaders. Nearly a year after the first calls to lock down, the threat of COVID-19 is far from done. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
There's a scramble around the world to secure enough vaccine, but federal regulators in the U.S. have a plan, a potential quick fix to boost supply. According to the New York Times, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration says Moderna can put 40% more vaccine into each of its vials. That works out to 14 doses in each vial as opposed to 10, increasing America's vaccine supply by 20%. The FDA is asking the drug maker to provide data to make sure it doesn't compromise the quality of the vaccine. Health Canada says it's aware of the FDA report. It says it has not yet received an application from Moderna to make the change for this country. Turning to Washington now and the impeachment trial. Donald Trump's legal team wrapped up its much-anticipated defense. For 3 hours, Trump's lawyers argued he did not incite the January 6th Capitol riots and that his words were just figures of speech. They called the case against the former president a political witch hunt. And as Jackson Proskow reports, it didn't end there.
An unjust and blatantly unconstitutional act of political vengeance.
In Trump-style language,
you get more due process than this when you fight a parking ticket.
The former president's defense team argued he did nothing to incite the mob that stormed the Capitol.
Clearly, there was no insurrection.
They made accusations of doctored evidence and false claims about who was behind the violence.
One of the first people arrested was the leader of Antifa.
They tried to equate Trump's speech to the summer protests against racial injustice and the words used by Democrats.
It's winning the fight. Fighting. He's fighting.
No human being seriously believes that the use of such metaphorical terminology is incitement to political violence.
Notably, there was little mention of Trump's months of lies about a stolen election, or of Trump's calls to his supporters to be in Washington on January 6th, or an explanation of why Trump waited so long to tell the mob to leave the Capitol building.
This appalling abuse of the Constitution only further divides our nation when we should be trying to come together.
Despite a likely acquittal, there were signs of Republicans who might break ranks.
Exactly when did President Trump learn of the breach of the Capitol? What specific actions did he take to bring the rioting to an end?
That question from 2 Republican senators was met with no answer from Trump's defense.
With the rush to bring this impeachment, there's been absolutely no investigation into that.
Knowing that an acquittal is still the most likely outcome, senators are moving quickly to wrap up the trial. There's still no expectation that witnesses will be called, and a final vote could come as early as Saturday afternoon. Robin?
Jackson Proskow in Washington. The new hurdle ahead of the Tokyo Olympics. Coming up, why the chief of the games quit. Plus, ringing in the Lunar New Year in the time of COVID. Every day, more cases of the new, more contagious variants of COVID-19 are being confirmed in Canada. The one first detected in the UK seems to be spreading the fastest. And since the variants are easier to catch, Canadians are likely going to have to brace themselves for even tighter public health restrictions in the weeks to come. Donna Friesen is taking a deeper look in this week's edition of The New Reality. Donna?
Robin, a key question is whether we've learned enough from what happened last spring. We know the virus thrives when we move around. It needs human hosts to spread and mutate. That's what's propelled the coronavirus to spread from China all over the world. These new variants are testing us again. They are spreading faster than the vaccines are rolling out. Yet there is no consensus about how to restrict how we move around.
We're looking at really every measure that's been implemented by every country.
I spoke with Professor Kelly Lee at BC's Simon Fraser University. She's part of an international group analyzing travel restrictions.
How do you think the conversation, the thinking, the strategy about
travel restrictions has evolved from the beginning to where we are now?
So at the beginning, way back in January, February, the received wisdom really was that travel-related restrictions don't work. And WHO put out the recommendation that countries should not adopt such measures. As this pandemic has unfolded, we've seen that actually there are some situations where actually it can work.
It's worked in Australia and New Zealand, where life is largely back to normal because of tight border controls and strict lockdowns when even a single case emerges. That's one part of our story. Tomorrow, we'll also explain how labs in this country are hunting for the variants, why genomic sequencing is so critical, and whether enough is being done. Plus, the uncertainty about whether variants can reinfect those who have already recovered from COVID-19. Robin?
All right, good stuff, Donna. To watch Donna's full story, tune into the new reality tomorrow night, right here on Global.
The world needs more Canada.
That was then. How about now? Still ahead, Canada's role on the world stage. Five years ago, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau declared Canada's back on the international stage. The Liberal government was signaling it wanted to build a stronger relationship with world organizations like NATO and get back into the business of peacekeeping. So did Canada follow through? Mike LeCouture has a reality check.
Last year's loss of the United Nations Security Council seat was seen as a blow to Canada's brand on the world stage. But perhaps it was also a wake-up call for the need to reframe where we see ourselves in the post-COVID-19 world.
Canada's foreign policy is a bit undeclared, I think.
Besma Momani teaches political science at the University of Waterloo. While she applauds the Liberals' focus on a feminist foreign policy, she wonders how effective it will be.
If you're looking for a policy that you can achieve your goals with very little financial resources to it, that is not one that you should put your monies, into, because it is an expensive endeavor and you're going to face a lot of global resistance to it.
The feminist foreign policy is aimed at helping women and girls around the world, with an emphasis on female entrepreneurs. But our international aid budget is only about $6 billion a year, or 0.27% of gross domestic income, far below the traditional goal of 0.7% of GDI.
The world needs more Canada.
That famous phrase, delivered by former U.S. President Barack Obama, was a call for Canada to get more involved. But some believe we haven't stepped up.
We're not really in a clear lane.
Former Canadian diplomat Randolph Mank led Canada's last major foreign policy review in 2003. He believes the Trudeau government needs to address the security of our cyber dependence.
That can only be done through deterrence and new international treaties around arms control, the weaponization of artificial intelligence and machine learning, things like that we're not caught up on internationally at all.
That was a 2019 Liberal campaign promise, but there's little evidence of progress. The establishment of the Canadian Centre for Peace, Order and Good Government was another promise without action. But this former diplomat believes it could build on our strengths.
I would point to participation in the group that's trying to bring democracy to Venezuela, and our efforts through the Ottawa Group to reform the World Trade Organization to bring the United States back into it.
A type of peace brokering that was once a hallmark of Canada, and one that is all the more important as world powers like China and Russia move away from multilateralism. Mike LeCouture, Global News, Ottawa.
The head of Tokyo's Olympic Organizing Committee resigned today after sparking a wave of international criticism by suggesting women talk too much in meetings. Yoshiro Mori's resignation comes with just over 5 months to go until the Summer Games. His exit could further complicate Japan hosting the Olympics, which had to be delayed until this year because of the pandemic. A selection committee now has to be formed to choose a new president. Up next, basketball in the ballroom. How the Toronto Raptors are keeping up practice during a pandemic. Tennis fans booed while being let out of the arena where the Australian Open is being played. The tournament will continue without crowds for 5 days. The state of Victoria entered a snap lockdown to contain a new outbreak of COVID-19. It's been linked to a quarantine hotel in Melbourne. The highly contagious variant first found in the UK is among the cluster of cases. The virus has forced Canada's only NBA team to play out its season in the U.S. The Toronto Raptors have relocated to Tampa, Florida because of complications crossing the border. Our Mike Armstrong was in Tampa for another story, but wanted to drop in on the Raptors to see how the move has gone. It didn't quite turn out the way he'd hoped.
There is an irony in a team branding itself We the North having to move to the U.S. South. There's also an irony that to cover that move, even though we were in Tampa, we had to do our interviews with team officials by Zoom. The COVID-19 safety protocols are that tight.
By moving to Tampa, we had to change everything.
Teresa Resch is the vice president of basketball operations and a big part of the team that moved the Raptors to Tampa's Amalie Arena for games and a hotel next door for practices. They turned the ballroom at a JW Marriott into a complete practice facility and team headquarters under a deadline Resch still has trouble believing.
We moved an entire organization in 2 weeks. You know, we've spent 25 years building up what the Toronto Raptors are in Toronto, and to just pick that up and move it to a completely different country in 2 weeks, it was everything.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, they really put their time.
Now, to make the move, the Raptors turned to a Canadian company, BAM Productions. It had to build everything from scratch in a hotel that itself was literally still under construction. It hadn't even opened.
We just needed everything out of the way. They were installing lights and we needed them to be taken down. As they were bringing things in, we needed to have them take it out.
Now, there's also another irony. The team was moved to Tampa because of the pandemic. That meant moving employees with the Raptors and BAM from Ontario to Florida, a place where there's actually more COVID-19 and it's spreading faster. The employees were allowed to choose whether to go or not.
Those are individual decisions, and so not everybody that was invited is here. And that's okay. We'll hope that we can get them the next time.
The other people who aren't here are the fans. Florida is allowing spectators at sporting events. The Super Bowl in Tampa had 22,000 fans in attendance last weekend.
This marks the first time fans are in the...
In Miami, the Heat are now playing in front of sparse crowds. Fans have to walk past COVID-sniffing dogs to get in. The owner of the arena where the Raptors are playing hopes to reopen to fans, at least a few thousand at a time, later this month. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Tampa.
And that is Global National for this Friday night. I'm Robin Gill. We leave you tonight with a roaring start to the Lunar New Year. BC's Kung Fu Club posted this traditional lion dance. Lion dances are said to bring prosperity and good luck, which we could all certainly use this year. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night.